Hello everyone. In this particular lecture or rather discussion, I'll discuss with you all Swadeshi and radicals. This is introductory part, and my main focus would be why Swadeshi movement, right? And why not some other kind of thing? Why Swadeshi movement? And what was the main reason of Swadeshi movement? We have already discussed so many things in our various lectures. Here I will briefly summarize you the Swadeshi and radical movements in say one or say two or three parts, right? Here let me let me request you all to go slightly back and see our previous lectures which are on say social reform movement. There what you will find the discussion between Charles Trevelyan and Lord Macaulay. See, these two British administrators were discussing how the Britain or how the regime of Britain will survive in a vast country like India, which has so many languages, so many culture, diversity and so on and so forth. So what are the ways to survive here? So Charles Trevelyan suggested the path of social reform. Lecture is in this channel only. You can anytime watch that particular channel. I'll also give that lecture in description. So they were all discussing. The period was between 1833 to 1838. That particular time they also reached a conclusion that either we will have to face the constitutionalists threat, so we will bargain with them, or we will have a radical phase, someone who will try to throw us. So we will deal with them with force. So in India there would be two types of forces. One, those who will be believing in constitutionalism or constitutional values, blind trust on our system and constitutions and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, we will have to deal with those who are or who would be radical in their approach and would want us to leave their country. And method to treat these two kind of people are: one, with constitutionalists bargaining, and with radicals force. So these are the things they planned. But India faced a revolution in 1857. At that particular time, these Britishers in Britain, there was a discussion, and Charles Trevelyan and Lord Macaulay was part of that discussion also. There were many Britishers who made a claim that if we would not have been soft to India and Indians, and we had been harsh, and we could have destroyed their self-respect and their identity and the things which they love, like their culture and so on and so forth. So we would not have seen 1857. We have to crush them by any means, and we should not respect Indians, but we must disrespect them in every sphere of life. Charles Trevelyan, Lord Macaulay and like-minded persons opposed them. They said, you see, we faced 1857 because we didn't respect Indians, and Indians need respect, and they hate to destroy their self-esteem, you can say, or self-respect, you can say. So what we did just opposite, or whatever you are all saying, we did the same. We didn't respect Indians, we didn't respect Indian values, we didn't respect Indian culture. We always try to suppress their voice. We always try to had a war with them, and we had a very negative image among Indians, and that was the main reason we faced 1857. And if we continue with this policy, we will have to see so many 1857s, and we will not be able to face Indian resistance so long. So at that time, during say 1861 to 1862, it was decided that Charles Trevelyan and Lord Macaulay's policy would survive in India. But those people who were opposing these two Britishers were from conservative ideology, or precisely conservative parties. These Britain at that time was divided between various sects, various political groups. Conservative was among one of them, and they were very powerful. Here we have to understand that whenever India saw Viceroy from conservative party, India had restrictions on freedom of press, restriction on assembly, restriction on speech, restriction on various activities, restrictions on everywhere like education, health sector, or unnecessary tax system, unjustified tax system, and so on and so forth, because conservatives' primary aim was to suppress Indians and their voice and their self-respect, right? This was their basic ideas. And whenever we have some other viceroy, for example liberal or from Labour party, then that viceroy provided us freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, freedom to roam, freedom to oppose government, and various other means. So on the first hand, the conservatives were against the very idea of constitutionalism, and liberals and Labour party viceroy, they always tried to give or rule country through constitutional values which Britishers promised with Indians. So this is the dichotomy we faced. Interesting part is that we had certain movements during Gandhian era. Let me also very briefly say this. We had one non-cooperation movement, two civil disobedience movement, and three quit India movement under the leadership of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Who was the viceroy during non-cooperation movement? Then it is Lord Chelmsford from Conservative Party. You got it, if I'm not wrong. Conservative Party viceroy. So unrest, because of unrest, non-cooperation movement. Second is civil disobedience movement. Who was the viceroy? Lord Irwin, again from Conservative Party, or he himself was highly conservative. So we had this salt agitation, in short popularly known as civil disobedience movement. Last one, quit India movement. The viceroy was Lord Linlithgow. Okay, again this Linlithgow is from Conservative Party. So whenever we had unrest in India, or whenever India decided to have any kind of movement, it was the conservative viceroy. Now coming back to our this lecture that is on Swadeshi and radicals. See, Indian National Congress was founded in 1885, and during the first 20 years it was dominated by liberal constitutionalists, which we have discussed in our main classroom. For example, Dadabhai Naoroji, Surendranath Banerjee, Firoz Shah Mehta, they were all liberal constitutionalists. Throughout these years, from 1885 to precisely say 1905, until this Bengal was divided, almost 20 years, there was no basic claim for the self-government, or there was not any idea given by this liberal constitutionalism as far as revolution is concerned, or they even didn't try to mobilize people against the Britishers. This was the main reason that these liberal constitutionalists, or the liberal leaders of Indian National Congress, or the first phase of Indian National Congress, was completely failed in a sense that it lost it did not have mass appeal, or neither it tried to create a mass movement. This was the basic in India. Now, at that time, in this century, we have seen Lord Curzon as Viceroy of India. In 1899, he came to India as a Viceroy, and he was very notorious person, number one. And interestingly, he was from conservative ideology, and he himself was highly conservative, who used to believe that Indians should not be governed by constitutions but should be governed by force, and we should suppress them completely to have a permanent rule in India, or a long rule in India. So he was from that ideological background. Curzon regime is infamous for his various notorious activities and various notorious acts in the name of efficiency in administration. This led to many types of conflicts between British administration and India. Now, few among them are, you can say, he reduced the number of elected Indian members in Calcutta Corporation in 1899, number one. Number two, he curbed and controlled the freedom of people and their institution through official secret act. Now, next is Universities Act of 1904, which gives immense power to the British administration, and universities are now no more an autonomous organization. Many Indians oppose all these acts, and they criticized, they made a kind of protests or agitations against Lord Curzon's policies, whatever he tried to implement in the name of efficiency in administration. Now, there was a kind of unrest already prevalent in during this period, this entire period. The main blow was clearly seen in 1905 when Bengal province was divided. Bengal was a big province in terms of population and territory. In the early 20th century, its population was about 78 million. See, this was rightly considered by the British administration that the control over Bengal or administration of Bengal is becoming day by day difficult because of its large population and large area. So we need to cut the size of Bengal to have an efficient administration. Idea was not bad. They tried to convince Indians. During that time, there was a kind of unrest in Bengal when many Bengali people came to know about it. But avoiding these unrests, Curzon partitioned Bengal. So Bengal was divided in 1905. It was divided between Bengal, one, which is now Bangladesh, was part of that area. Then Odia speaking people, Odisha, Assam and Bihar was separated from Bengal, and some part of Bangladesh, like you can say Chittagong area, became the part of Assam during that period, although it was reorganized once again. And Chota Nagpur province as well. So Bengal was remained with Decca, some districts of Assam, Chota Nagpur of central province, Sambalpur. Now these areas were divided. East Bengal was part of West Bengal, which is now we know as. Okay, so this particular partition was hit the psyche of Bengali people, and they considered it as attack on their cultural values, on their language, on their civilization, and on their territory, and they take it at personal level, and they created a massive movement. What was the British argument to partition, to divide Bengal? Number one, the colonial administration simply said that it would reduce the excessive administrative burden of Bengal government. Number one. Number two, this would also solve the problem of Assam, which would become a lieutenant governor province with a separate civil servant cadre. Number three, there would be a substantial commercial benefits. For example, interests of the tea gardens, oil and coal industries, okay, would be safeguarded since the Bengal is divided now. Fourth, the Assam planters would be having a cheaper maritime outlet through the port of Chittagong. Okay, and last, the Assam Bengal railways, which was so vital to the economic development of northeastern India, would be brought under a single administration. It is written by Bandyopadhyay, which was published in, his book was published in 2004. I will give you the description in the link of the book. So it was the citation from the book. Now this was British argument. What was the real agenda? We have to focus on that. If we have a cursory look at the partition scheme, it reveals that all arguments that Curzonian administration were trying to give was false and based on fake ideas and fake arguments. It created a new province of eastern Bengal and Assam consisting of all the districts of Chittagong, Decca and Rajashree divisions, as well as Hill, Tipperah, Malda and Assam. The new population would divide Hindus and Muslims unequally, while East Pakistan of that time became Muslim dominated. On the other hand, West Bengal became Hindu dominated areas. So the focus on of Curzon was not on smooth administration and all these things which British administration was trying to convey, but to play the politics of divide and rule, which conservative viceroys always loved to inflame whenever they come to India and whoever they were. So it was the real agenda was to play the politics of divide and rule. This was their main agenda of partition of Bengal and to weaken politically the Bengal movement and Bengal people and to break the strong economy of Bengal at that time. So these was the reason which would directly benefit the British administration, but certainly not the Indians and more precisely Bengali people. Here what we see that many people realized this policy of Britain, that they actually want us to divide on religious lines and they want us to be in clash with each other on in the name of religion. And see the beauty of this country, that soon after realizing this very fact, many cultural development took place in Bengal. Bengali people at that time were highly educated, English educated mainly people, number one. They were all leading in various types of professions, government services, politics, social services, in the area of religion, Aurobindo Ghosh, Vivekananda, and there were so many people. Right. Now, their preaching, for example, preaching of Vivekananda and various literary work of Rabindranath Tagore, they actually got worldwide attention. And beginning from America to Japan and Russia, many people were highly influenced by these Bengali intellectuals. At that time, when Bengal was divided and to crush the British intentions to divide Indians on religious grounds, you won't believe that there were people in Bengal who started celebrating Raksha Bandhan festival. Muslim girls started tying Rakhi to Hindu males, and Hindu girls started tying Rakhis to the Muslim males to show that they were all brother and sisters, and they were all sisters and sisters and brothers and brothers. There cannot be anyone who can divide Bengali people on religious grounds and play politics. This was a clear message on the one hand, and on the other hand, we had seen there were so many intellectual people who were from Bengal, whether it is Vivekananda or Rabindranath Tagore or Aurobindo Ghosh. There were so many people who actually built the cultural values of Bengali people and Bengali identity. After like some time, mainly the middle class people, it emerged, and they are known as Bhadralok people in Bengal. They were all these people started mobilizing through various appeals, various protests, various assemblies, various say marches, and it only gave them self-confidence and pride. And Curzon's act of partition was regarded as a national insult in Bengal. So, this period, Bengali people started mobilizing against the 1905 partition of Bengal. There were some developments in India. These were the some developments in India. Now, except these, there were certain developments throughout the world. For example, Chinese boycott of American goods. It was considered by Indians as a big thing at that time. Then Boer War, okay, where Japan defeated Prussian army in 1904 and 5. It also gave a kind of confidence among Indians. And there were many South Asian countries which started criticizing various powerful countries at that time. So white man's burden theory and Britishers are here for civilizational mission, it all collapsed slowly but rapidly. And Bengal saw a major movement which was popularly known as Swadeshi movement in India against this Lord Curzon's act, which came into force in 1905 to divide Bengal between various provinces. The movement was massive and it was widespread and national in character. In our next lecture, our focus would be on Swadeshi movement. Take care and keep yourself safe, be healthy and stay blessed. Thank you very much.